change in the fundraising sector has never been greater. But innovations in technology are evolving faster than our ability to understand them. Are these advances good or bad? Do they have unintended consequences? And what is the application to the global fundraising sector? That's what we're here to find out. Welcome to the Fundraising AI podcast, your up-to-date resource for responsible AI for the global fundraising community, hosted by Nathan Chappell and Scott Rosenkrantz.
Fundraising AI podcast, bonus episode number 38 with a good friend, Scott Lockie. And really great to have you here, Scott.
Are you saying Scott Lockie?
Oh, God. Okay, let's stop. I knew that didn't sound right. All right. Wait, maybe we just
also,
keep on recording.
We've got Tim Rosenkrantz.
I'm here with my best friend, Scott Lockie, and Tim Rosenkrantz.
Tim, I haven't shared this with anyone. I refer to your AI bot as Tom Licky in my head.
That actually is an appropriate name
I think that's
Tim.
right.
I'm also really close to Lockie. Like I feel like I should just go Lockie and just be done with it. But yeah.
All right. I don't know. I'm really tempted just to leave this recording.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay,
let's wrap it up.
We're going. I mean, I do find it amazing how long it took Scott to be like, hey, wait a minute. Okay, just to clarify, everyone, episode 38, bonus episode with our good friend who I actually know his name, Tim Lockie, because I talked to him quite a bit now, and Scott Rosenkrantz. We're here for a special episode to talk about all things AI and humans, I think. Those are probably pretty on brand for you, Tim. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, it's exciting to have you on here. We've got 12 days left until the Fundraising AI podcast. By the time this drops, it's going to be like 7 days. Let's go back to the origin story of you and the human stack, because I think a lot of people know the human stack idea. To be honest, it took me a little while when you shared that concept with me to recognize what you were intending to do. It took me even longer to figure out what it was. So I think this will be a good opportunity to kind of like draw those connections. Of course, people know the tech stack, right? The tech stack is the thing that you use in your business or whatever. And the human stack was something that you came upon at some point in your career. So why don't you tell that story and then let Scott and I, or whatever his name is, interrogate you and kind of keep on drilling, peeling back the onion.
Yeah. So I've been in nonprofit work since I was 18, so a long time. And the place I kept finding my sweet spot was around data. I studied economics, did econometrics, and just understood how data worked, could do stuff on computers, whatever. So more and more of my work ended up being around that type of work. And then I implemented Salesforce in 2009 for a mid-sized global nonprofit with about 450 users. And that as an implementation out of the gate, it's not how most people start their consulting side. But I realized when I was doing this work, wow, this is a real need. I really like what technology can do. I like the consulting side of things. So I started a firm. And I did that for about 10 years. We implemented Salesforce for hundreds of nonprofits. In 2019, I went to the Salesforce Partner Summit, and somebody put a slide up that said 90% of organizations collect data, but only 5% use that data to make decisions. And that just felt true and wrong. And it was kind of a Jerry Maguire moment for me where I just had to say, why is this happening and who's going to do something about it? And good or bad, I just decided that's my bit. I'm not going to keep doing the same thing we've been doing. And so I spent a while figuring out, why is that happening? Why is it so often we implement technology that never gets used? And it boils down to a really simple word: humans. Humans are the reason that we don't adopt. And so I started looking more and more at why that was happening. And I just realized we don't architect, design, and engineer the way that humans use technology collectively the way that we do for technology. It has to be interoperable. It has to have APIs that talk to each other. Like all these ways that the tech stack works together, we don't do that for the human side, the community side of an organization. And so the human stack is just the community of humans that work together to accomplish something And that's why I came up with the name.
Awesome. You started this in 2019. When did this officially launch?
It launched in 2022 because I was trying to just fold this into my other brand. And what I finally realized is that brand did really well at what it was designed to do, which was Salesforce for nonprofits. And when I was trying to get it to mean this, it didn't. And I finally realized I just need to rebrand. And so I had to let that go.
So I imagine pre-ChatGPT 2022, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How has it evolved, or what has it turned into compared to what you originally planned it to be?
It is. I did not expect AI to be a major component of it. And in a lot of ways, I was avoiding bringing AI into it because I was worried people would get confused about what's tech stack, what's human stack. And I think I had this aha moment when we were together just not that long ago, when we were together in Toronto, and we were having a discussion, as we do, because we always meet very early, first thing in the morning in conferences. And we were going around talking about what the barriers were, and they were the same barriers that I kept hearing for all of the other work I did. And I just realized, wait, we have an adoption issue because there's fear involved. People don't know what it can do. They haven't seen it. And the same methods that I use to help people embrace technology, I just need to start doing with AI. And so like a month later, came up with 2 courses that I felt like I could introduce that would help organizations start to use technology. And they really help fundraising AI as well.
Yeah, I want to give you a huge shout out because last year Fundraising AI, was just coming into its own. We were starting to get a little bit of traction and momentum, but not enough. And you swooped in the 10th hour, not even just the 11th hour, and you were like, "Hey, here's a need. Like, would you mind if I curated conversations to promote Fundraising AI Summit?" And you started doing that. You promoted, I don't know how many interviews you did just on your own, like 15 or 20 or something. It was just a lot. And that was just amazing. And we got to 6,500 people from 84 countries. So fast forward this year, you've taken a more proactive approach of identifying this as an opportunity earlier on and saying, hey, what if we do the same thing and we curate this? And I will say, I'll give you a great shout out because it was about 2 years ago, you and I met at Bridge at the Silver Diner, whatever it's called, restaurant. And we had kind of a little debate on whether or not nonprofits should focus on AI or use AI, because I think, paraphrasing your words, that they had other bigger issues that they had to worry about, right? I mean, data quality issues, even just pure data issues, whether or not they're on a CRM. And I think at that time I was pretty clear in where Gen AI was just going to become accessible and affordable, and if those that didn't use it would miss out. That was not long ago. That was, just 2 years ago. And then fast forward 2 years to today,
that was just a year ago.
Oh,
it was Bridge last year. Yeah.
So we know where you're at the adoption lifecycle curve. But I will say, no, I mean, you're still, I'm going to give you a lot of kudos here, because you took that moment, from that point to now, you've really identified that this adoption challenge is that for all those reasons that you just shared, whether it's FOMO or it's fear or it's whatever, just lack of education, you put on your blinders and you created a thing called AI for Anyone. And there's lots of different trainings out there, but not a lot that I think the feedback that I've received, because people are talking about you, whether or not they're talking to you, is that it's very accessible. We've had a few people at Fundraising AI take it and said it's just super easy to understand. You bring levity to it, and it just really helped them in a way that Scott and I can't help them, because inevitably we end up probably using terms that people don't understand. So I think you've spent a lot of time to do this. So talk about the evolution. I guess, what was the trigger that encouraged you to build AI for Anyone? And then what was that process like? Did it take a long time? And then share us with both of us what the response has been so far.
I feel like I had this moment where I realized I had something else to say that other people weren't saying. And before that, I was like, there's lots of stuff out there. There's a course called AI for Everyone that's free by Stanford. And I was like, so and Josh Hirsch is building a course, like it's Josh Hirsch and Murphy. So I feel like there are greats out there that are already doing this. And I think the aha that I had was people don't think of themselves as people who use AI, so they don't. So the barrier is actually it's not about the tech, it's about helping them see, oh, I'm a person that can use this. Like, I identify as a person that does. The irony is that and you pointed this out multiple times, Nathan, that there are people that are using it all the time, even prompting on ChatGPT, but don't think of themselves as AI users. And I feel like that's the light bulb moment I had, that this is about an identity question about what kind of person am I, not about could AI help me. And so that was the angle that I took for AI for anyone.
And that's interesting. So what are some of the tactics you use to get them to change how they see themselves as an AI user? Without giving away the course for free.
No, I'm glad for people to see this and to talk about it. I worked really hard to find a way to create a simple model that help people understand what the AI parts of this are and what the self parts of this are, and then how those connect. And at the same time, really emphasize that AI is fun. That's why people come back to it. And the science of disappointment, delight is really fascinating. But when someone's delighted, you combine joy and surprise. And when you add those two emotions together, you get dopamine plus noradrenaline. And that means that you remember in a different way because of the noradrenaline side, and you're happy about it. And so if you can create delight for people, they'll remember it, and that will change them almost instantly. Right. And so it was about helping people understand this is a safe place to come and explore who you're going to be without ever using those words, introducing a framework within minutes that they can get their heads around the entirety of it. And then just like helping them and I use a trampoline as the model, and just saying, like, people jump on a trampoline and the first time they've met big smiles on their faces because the experience makes them happy, because it's delight, surprise, and joy. And that's what AI does. And then I get into, here's the frame, here's agency, which is the mat, and here are all the little skills, which are springs. And you have to have a lot of those. So the model actually is fairly complex, but if you understand a trampoline, you understand the most important part of it, which is if you're on it and you're jumping, it's fun. And I think that's actually the main point about AI.
And trying not to break your leg.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Which is data security, right? Or other parts of it. If you fall off the trampoline, then that's when you get hurt. So
you can't jump on it recklessly and not think bad things will happen.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's so spot on. For me as a technologist, that delight and joy came very quickly. Like, I mean, Scott and I, like, instantly, and when we start using the original GPT, like, literally eyes like, holy crap. Because then there's delight of like, this is really big. Like, we're like alive at this time where this thing is happening. And I was talking with the head of IT for a large university a few weeks ago, and I'm like, and he's been in this field for a long time. We're just marveling still today, 2 years later, how fast it can assimilate and provide actionable guidance or content in exceedingly fast pace and extraordinarily really strong results. And so that joy it hasn't gone away for me. I'm still sitting there like, how far can we push it and what else can it do? And then as soon as, even before we've ever gotten bored, there's something new, which is it's just pretty crazy. But I think, to your point, getting people over that initial hump of like, what would I look like as an AI person, or what would I look like if I use this tool? Because I think there is a big delta between those that use it and have that joy and those that are just holding out. And inevitably, when I do a talk, I'll ask like how many use it frequently versus those have used it one time. And those have used it one time, they had some marginal experience with it. There was no joy, right? There was like, oh, okay. And it seemed a little scary. So they either not used it at all, or they used it once or twice, and they had kind of that alternate experience. So tell us a little bit more about so the curriculum is like, how long? Is it self-paced? How is it expensive?
I'm going to come back to that question. I will answer that, but I'm really dying to find out for both of you, what was your first prompt?
We were planning vacation in Florida. It was like a last minute trip. And my wife had been searching literally for like days in her free time to find a hotel and couldn't find anything. And thinking about canceling the trip and all this. So I think I used Bing, and I said, all right, I want a hotel in this range, price range, available on these dates, that have a balcony, that have a pool, that are good for kids, have breakfast included, 3 stars and above, and all this, right? And it came up with this beautiful table with everything that I wanted. And we found a hotel in a matter of 30 seconds. And now we stay at that hotel chain whenever we can. So for me, that was like game changing. Like, I'm never going to do a Google search ever again.
Yeah. You might have had the first AI curated vacation.
I might have.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Mine was, I think I copied someone else. It's like, have it write a poem about your dog having a picnic on the moon. So that literally did that. I think that was my first prompt, but my most memorable prompt, and so I was like, wow, that's novel, right? That's just kind of cute. But when the first time we just had a lot of fun with it, Scott was with me. We're in a car at a team retreat, and we hired another Scott. So we had a problem. We had 2 Scotts. And so we quickly had to come up with an alternate name for Scott Rosencrantz here, whose nickname we've shared before on this podcast is Skit Caboodle. So not just Skit, because once in a while when he's nervous in a very public forum with really important people, he'll introduce himself as Skit for some.
Only if their name is like Tim or Jim or Nick. Like, yes,
he's like,
and they're like,
hi,
high
I'm
level.
Tim and I'm Nick. And he's like, I'm Skit, with full conviction. I mean, I can't say anything because I introduced you as Scott Lockie a few minutes ago. So we came up with this nickname. We're like, okay, now you're officially Skit, and that's not enough. So Skit Caboodle. And then I was driving and actually just was on my phone, and I'm like, write a rap song in the voice of Snoop Dogg for our friend Skit Caboodle. And it did. And we were in the car roaring. Like, it was freaking amazing. And so that was the time I'm like, this is insane how it just did this so quickly. And of course, the rest is history. But that's a pretty memorable. It's kind of like we talked about. It's like, where were you on 9/11?
Yeah.
But
and that's my point is that, like, and I'd forgotten this until this conversation, but I had used Jasper like for a couple of months, and it was almost good. You know what I mean? Not cutting it. And then I did ChatGPT in December 22, and I did write a poem about bad fundraising data. Okay. 5 stanzas rhymed in context, complete, and comparing that to Jasper and all the other kind of AI stuff I had seen, it was night and day. And so, yeah, same thing. It sticks out in my mind. Jasper doesn't, but this does.
Right.
Yeah. But it's interesting that we all had that moment, right? But then you would think that, like, you get used to it. But it's still, even without new models coming out, there's still, like, this last week, even without the reasoning, I've built 3 GPTs that I've been using like nonstop. Like, I interact with them more than anything else. And I was at a training session with a nonprofit, and I brought up this was like social service, social network, or social worker nonprofit in Queens. I was showing them how to use ChatGPT, and we brought up the voice chat, and I interacted with it like it was a 14-year-old boy deciding whether or not to go back to school or drop out and start selling drugs, right? And there were audible gasps when people heard this emotion. And I was like, all right, now act like you're sarcastic, kind of pissed off 14-year-old boy. And it changed. Like, I still get that joy, even after using it for 2 years, like sporadically, things will just come and be like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Yeah. Because every time it gives you a different output. So it's never static. It's amazing. So,
well, and Tim, also humans, we share that experience with other people. And this is one of the reasons that I was wrong when I talked with you before, Nate, is because what I missed is that in my work, what I'm trying to do is help people use technology collectively. And this is one of the few technologies where, without any background, no other things, people can experience that immediately and share it with other people. As soon as you do something like that, you want to show someone else what you just saw. That is as human stack as it gets. And so I feel like I really, like, for a year, I just really missed it, Nate. You must have been laughing at me like, what's this guy about? So
just a little. But what I get a lot of joy in is having conversations with people who just maybe aren't seeing it. And I got an email from someone the other day. I was at a conference, and there's always a few people that are like, never going to use it, haven't used it. By the time I'm done talking about using it, but using it in a responsible, beneficial way, I get this email. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used it and look what it did. And it like helped me with this thing. And it's like so much joy in seeing how people can augment and support their work. And truly I love how you use the word joy and delight, because if you can offload the things you don't like to do, I mean, that's amazing. As long as you don't trade that for just doing more of other things, and that you use that time. We talk about this a lot on the podcast of using the dividend of time wisely, so that you're not just caught in this, like the hamster wheel is not just going 10 rotations faster. But it's amazing to see how people just really gravitate with this and actually start to level up their work. So go back to the question that you didn't answer, which is, what is the format of AI for anyone in terms of it's a learning management system online, self-paced or
Yep.
not, and you just kind of go through it?
It's 22 lessons. All of them, I think, are less than 5 minutes, maybe a few or more than that. Really digestible, bite-sized. What I'm finding as more people do this, people's brains get full at some point along the way, and they come back a few days later and kind of wrap the rest of it. And so it could be done in one sitting. So a long lunch, you could finish the whole thing. What I'm finding though is most people want to like learn and then come back and actually digest it. So I think that's great. It's about 60 minutes. There's a whole other 45 minutes of bonus content that I'll keep adding to as well. That is where I go into some of the hands-on examples and almost streaming style, just walk through the whole thing instead of just giving the prompts and some outputs, so people can kind of really go into detail on it. And it's about $100. And my goal was to create something that anybody in any nonprofit could just afford and take a lunch and actually complete and feel like, okay, I get why this would make sense. And they've been in ChatGPT. They've made a table with ChatGPT, which I think is the thing where it really blows people's minds, is when they go from a list to a table. It just the lights go off in a different way there. So,
Totally.
So I'm trying to do that.
That's awesome. I haven't taken it yet. I probably will sign up for it just out of curiosity, but I saw the ad, and the ad I shared with you, one of the best ads I've ever seen for anything like that. If I wasn't interested before, that got me completely interested.
Thank you so much. I was thank you for saying that. I had a lot of fun making that. One of the things that I thought people would just catch is that we have almost all the sponsors in that ad. So we keep naming sponsors in the ad, and I did it creatively. Like on one, it was, we help you with this one because that's one cause, you know. So I really appreciate that. And then the legal disclaimers at the end, I think are just a blast to put together. So thank you.
Well, send us the link and we'll put it in the show notes so that people can follow along. That's awesome, Tim. So congratulations on just taking that effort. I mean, there's one thing to have the idea. There's another thing to do it. So a lot of work. And I know you're spending a lot of late nights or like all nights doing this thing. What's the feedback been so far? I mean, I've heard kind of ancillary feedback from a few people on our team that have taken it and really liked it, but I'm sure you've received emails, or I don't know, do you do pre-post surveys and seeing how people are advancing? What's that been like?
Yeah, exceeding expectations across the board has been, would recommend this to others. So all the data points are generally giving me as positive. I've really appreciated a few people that have gone through, have like line itemed out, here's some suggestions for me. I'll do a version 2 probably between now and the end of the new year and collect more of that. And I felt more nervous about putting this out than anything I've ever put out before, partly because people like you that I respect so much, I knew would be seeing it, and I just felt it in a different way. But when Jasmine from your team took the course, and then I just saw her review on LinkedIn, that was a real moment for me, because I felt like, okay, this is Jasmine from Fundraising AI. Like, she's around it, and this really helped her. And so that has been a lot of the feedback that I'm getting, that
That's amazing.
It's personable. People want something that's short, affordable, but is personal. And so I do put a lot of my personality into it. And
Yeah. Congratulations. I know that we're going to, with Fundraising AI, do a somewhat of a marketplace of people that are intimately involved and also building tools or services that complement and enhance the fundraising AI framework for responsible and beneficial AI. And so that was a big part of it. How did you integrate any of the FAI kind of ethos into your trainings?
great question. I mean, Nathan, I think that it's safe to say that you've done a lot of my training around AI. So I've done a lot of the prompting on my own and learning it. But if it wasn't for the framework, if it wasn't for my participation in helping the framework come out, if I didn't listen to you talk about beneficial and responsible use of AI, which are the two highest agency pieces of your agency with AI, I feel like I would have missed a lot of it. So that framework is what it is because of your influence and Fundraising AI's influence. So a lot of it. And I wouldn't have even made the course if I wasn't listening to our combined input of we've got to get something out there that will help people just cross the line on trying it out. And so yeah, it heavily influenced it.
That's awesome. We're all for people trying it out. I truly believe that in the age of AI, there's winners and losers, and we want many more winners than losers, those that are using it, but also using it well. So thanks for carrying that flag with us.
Yeah. And I know you were involved with last year's summit, and with this year's summit's coming up, you're doing a lot of LinkedIn Lives with some speakers, with some attendees. What are you most excited about, and what are you hearing the buzz for those that you're talking to?
Yeah, I'm hearing, and last year was really such an amazing event. And I was asked like last minute surprise to step in on a talk that I gave. And so that was really fun to talk about that.
I forgot about that. We had a no show. I forgot about that. And you came in literally the morning of, and you freaking crushed it.
Thank
did
you.
a fantastic. Yeah. We had amazing feedback from that session.
I think you might not know this, but I was out at breakfast and was working on my slides literally in the car on my phone to put that together. And it was fun. It was awesome. It was exactly what I wanted to speak on. So yeah, it was great. This year I'm talking about the next course. So I talked about 2 courses, and I think that this is, if you haven't seen my logo, and I know that this is a podcast, but there's 2 parts to the little bug in my logo. It's an A, but there's a top part of it's a triangle, and then there's another part that's the rest of the A. And in my line of work, when I look at the human stack, that represents the triangle is leadership and strategy, and the boots on the ground part of the A, that's the responsible and responsible and tactical parts of it. So I created AI for anyone as the tactical boots on the ground part. And so this year I'm introducing my second course, which is called the AI Playbook. And so it's really about teams. How do teams use AI together? And that has been kicking my ass, guys. Like the idea of agency, I felt like was really challenging. But when it comes to how do you use AI collectively, there's a wide gap in the way that we do this. I mean, Sean Olds with Boodle is a great first step on some of that. But when it comes to workflow, until I found Cassidy, which is where I'm finding a lot of the kind of stuff that I can do with it, it's really hard to see how to help leaders see what we can do with this as a team. And so I'll be talking on that. Like, what does it look like to create team momentum around this?
Awesome. Well, it's been so great to spend some time with you, Scott Lockie and Tim Rosencrantz. It's just been truly an honor. We have to continue to ride that out. We thank you for all that you do for Fundraising AI and for really helping mobilize and bring people together to convene and share these best practices and get people over that hurdle. We'll include all the notes or all the links in the show notes for people to find out more about you and AI for Anyone and the AI Playbook for Leaders that will be coming out. And we'll see you, I think, in person, right? In San Francisco?
Yeah.
October 1st?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Mallory, thanks so much for having me. I'm just really excited to be here.
It's going to be awesome. No problem. All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in for this bonus episode of the Fundraising AI podcast. We will catch you again next week. with a episode featuring Microsoft and a few leaders from Microsoft who are also deeply involved in fundraising AI. So it's going to be great to peel back the onion, talk both on the technological side, what's going on at Microsoft, but also the community side and their role in bringing people together. So stay tuned for that, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Take care, everyone.